I'm Carlo Standoli from the design department of Politecnico di Milano, and I'm a researcher working on the healthcare and well-being research fields through the lens of the design culture. I'm here to welcome Tim Austin Liddell, a young designer, architect, entrepreneur. What else? Do I miss something, Tim?
No, it's all good.
So, welcome back. Okay,
Thank you.
Are in Milan. Okay, this is my living room, not the Politecnico di Milano, but okay, welcome back. You live in the United States, but you have strong ties with Italy, Milan, and Politecnico di Milano, as you have attended a master's degree in integrated product design. And moreover, you are an alumnus of the Alta Scuola Politecnica. And I was really impressed by your project developed during the Alta Scuola Politecnica. So, first of all, how are you and how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. It's great to see you and be part of this. It was fun actually listening to the last talk. Eladia was a former professor of mine of game studies. So it's fun to see her and listen to Kishona. But yeah, things are good. I moved back to the States, but I still have a strong connection with all the friends and colleagues in Italy. So life's good.
So first of all, I would say like a little icebreaker, starting from your quote that was really interesting. So let me read it because I don't know if everyone knows it. So you said, imagine listening to a sailor and to an hot air balloonist debate the properties of air. Design should invite those conversations and delight in them, knowing that both sides are right. Okay, could you please explain it better? Because I'm very curious and keen about it.
Okay, well, thank you. I saw that the theme of this event was, there was a little quote, a tagline associated with this: "No designer is an island, logbook for sailing into the future." And I was thinking about sailing, and recently, I actually just 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go up in a hot air balloon for the first time over Lancaster County and over all the farmland here. And it was just a totally new experience for me. And I got in a conversation with the pilot or the balloonist, I'm not sure what you call him, and was asking him about all the things he was doing. He was pulling cords and, firing off propane. And I said, so are you steering us? And he said, no, we don't steer. I said, well, what are you doing with all those fins? And he said, the only thing I can do is turn us. So he was turning us so we would all get a nice view in different directions, but otherwise he was just going with the wind. He could go up and down and catch different drifts depending on his elevation, but otherwise, he had a very relaxed view of things, and he was going to go where the wind took him and land where we could. And that's very different from what we normally think about when we think of sailors who, obviously are using the wind to get to a specific destination. But I sort of thought, here are two people, the balloonist and the sailor, who both, make a life out of sailing the wind. And they must, they see it differently. They have a totally different experience of it. And I don't know what you want to read into that, but I find that in so many instances in life, we listen to experts who each bring something really special to the table, but it's never a complete, understanding. It's only through dialogue and discourse that we can arrive at a more complete understanding of the world around us. So I hope that's what we can do. I think it's interesting the people you've put together in these conversations. Clearly I come at this with a different perspective than perhaps Kishona or others. And it's only, I think, in all of our voices that you can understand the current state of design, some of, opportunities and challenges and all those things.
I think this is one of the most important abilities of a designer to change the perspective. And so both the sailor and the hotel balloonist have the possibility of having different kind of perspective, but they deal with the same thing, that is air, and so changing the route according to the air. So it's very, very important, and I think it's really you have really focused the topic of this conversation, and you have had the opportunity of having different kind of perspective and the opportunities related to your experience. I mean, you have been here in Italy studying at Politecnico di Milano, then you moved back to the US. So it's a way to dealing with different kind of culture, different kind of experiences, and so on. So it's really
and I've been really lucky in that respect, that I've been able to live in different places and get to know a lot of different people. Before Italy, I had studied architecture here in the States, in upstate New York, and I had a great experience. Obviously, you meet a lot of cool people in college and in my career also. But I was looking for different input, as a designer, and I found this program in Italy. I was really lucky. It was only by chance that I found it. My main degree at the Politecnico was in product design, and then in addition to that, I had the chance to work with Alta Scuola, which is, I think we would describe it as a scholarship program in English, and it brought together people from all of the different faculties of the Politecnico. So, I mean, what is a Politecnico? It's basically a trade school, to use the unsexy term. So you have people that make things and solve problems. You have, traditionally the architects and the engineers, and then from architecture split off design and all sorts of different types of design. And from engineering, you actually now have things like business or management engineering. So it's just a really fascinating group of people there. And Alta Scuola brought together all of them, put us in a room together, and made us take on these funny, exercises where each of, in groups, we would have to solve a problem or invent some new thing or write some business model. But it was really good on the ground training for me. And, throw language into that. When you study in the States, the assumption is everyone speaks English. And frankly, everyone does. We have a very diverse pool of applicants to our universities, and many international students, but they all speak English perfectly. So, you speak English. In Italy, you draw likewise on an international community of students, but the expectation is not necessarily that you speak English perfectly. It might be your third, fourth, fifth language, and you may be studying in Italian because the programs are mixed. So Alta Scuola brought together just a lot of different voices, and we would, the official language was English in that case, but we would have side conversations in Italian. There were groups speaking, Russian or Armenian. And it was just fascinating to see how that all played out. For me, as an American, it was sort of new. I think in Europe, maybe you're more used to it. So I think what you can say about Alta Scuola and interdisciplinarity in general in Europe is that it works on multiple levels. So professionally, you bring together different skill sets, but culturally, you bring together different, wildly different experiences and languages and culture. So,
and I think that this is the most important legacy of your experience. I mean, not just related to the expertise, related to the didactics and so on, but also related to the opportunity that you have had to meet different kind of people coming from different backgrounds and cultures. So it is a way to ease the possibility of changing the perspective. So to understand that maybe the person that is really close to you is a completely stranger because he or she comes from different backgrounds, different experiences, and so on. So maybe you are
they're
living.
strangers, but I'll tell you, I mean, I was a stranger to myself. I go there, I sign up for this product design course, and I ended up in the Italian section, right? And my Italian was not very good. So I was challenged all the time to think about like how I would express an idea. It was a challenge that I took on, willingly, but it was a serious challenge. And I got in a situation where, I just didn't have the words sometimes. So it forced me to think visual, how I could express myself visually, which I think is a good exercise for everyone in this field. It was interesting as I grew into sort of my Italian personality, which was like, how do I go around my daily life? How do I go, through life at the Politecnico in Italian? And, what that meant for me was basically being a fool all the time, because my Italian was like a child's Italian. Actually, Italian children usually speak better than me. But anyway, it was great fun because like I was just constantly challenging myself to think about how to transmit meaning to people, which is what we do in design. Now, I ultimately got like better at Italian, and I think now I am able to express myself pretty freely in the language. But that was a growing process for myself, and I think to some extent, you talk about putting yourself in a diverse environment. There's this huge stimulus, but if you can contain some of that diversity too, because of these touch points in your life, or because of you speak two languages, or whatever it is, I think it certainly could make you a more balanced person. So I'll tell you, if there's anyone, I imagine most people listening are Italian. For me, learning Italian and working in Italian was a huge breakthrough, because it was like having a different brain. It was a child's brain in my case, but it was beautiful. It was like you in a language, any language, you inherit this whole entire sort of linguistic patrimony, right? So like your culture is largely packed into language, and I felt like I just tapped into that, and suddenly I had words for things I didn't have words for. So it was really cool. And I think, you guys, in Europe, I think certainly at the collegiate level, everyone is learning English. So, okay, now you speak language number 2, maybe you speak language number 3. And maybe it's a pain in the butt because, you kind of have to do it. But to the extent that you can grow into that and use it as sort of this accessory brain, and like, when you're solving a problem, certainly I find when I'm solving a problem, it's helpful sometimes to just put different words on it.
Problems with the connection. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Probably okay. I had some problems. So I was looking at your Italian personality is coming out. When you speak, you used to move and do a lot of gestures like a real Italian. So you have learned a lot during your experience. But going back to our conversation, your experience was really useful for you to start creating a network, and a network that is both global and situated. So you are in the US, you are in a small town in the country, but you are linked to a lot of people that comes from your previous experience in Italy and in Politecnico. And it's really, really interesting to understand how you work and your perspective in doing such type of work, and how this current situation has affected in a positive or negative way your way of be a designer.
Well, this whole past year impacted people enormously, and there were certainly some negatives. But I feel like I've been lucky. It was really a breakthrough, not technologically, because video calls existed obviously before last year, but culturally, people got comfortable jumping on video calls and working in big teams across different time zones. So it really was was a good year for me because I came home. I'm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It is like literally farm country. My neighbors here are Amish, and it's not where you'd expect to launch your sort of international design firm. In fact, it would have been impossible to do that in past generations. But now, I mean, I'm connecting every day with people in Milan, and I feel like the world is my oyster. We like to say, you know, you can make these networks of people. So I thought about it in terms of the classic idea of the innovation hub. You know, there's a lot of research on innovation hubs, and typically they're urban innovation hubs because innovative people are drawn to cities. They go to universities there, and then they stay there and they work. Well, what if they weren't urban? You know, what if an innovation hub tied people together in a different way that wasn't spatial, you know, but more sort of mission driven, or, you know, or whatever it is. But that's largely what we're trying to construct, is like, how can this community of people working together be an innovation hub, regardless of where I am in the world? I mean, it doesn't matter where I am, you know, largely. And it's a plus to have a team that's with people plugging in from different places. I mean, people talk a lot about diversity, and that can be understood in many ways, but, you know, diversity of experience is maybe the most important way. And if your entire team lives in a big metropolitan design center, you're all doing the same things. I mean, you go out and you have aperitivo, and you go to galleries and stuff, and that's really great and it's stimulating, but that's not life for a lot of people. And so if you're going to design for people like in the world, you kind of need to like live in the world. So I'm here in farm country. I think that represents some portion of society, certainly like an American demographic that has been underrepresented to some extent in design discourse. But we have team members like in Milan and, you know, New York and London, and so you also get that perspective too. And I just love it. Like we jump on these calls, and a lot of times I get distracted, but I'll ask people like, okay, what do you do? Like, what time is it? What is it like? And it's just really fascinating working with such a diverse team.
It's really interesting how the context affect our behavior, our everyday life as designer and individuals, and our past context, and the one in which we live. So, I mean, I come from Terni, a small town in Umbria, then I live here in Milan.
Sei un umbro!
Wow. And so, having this kind of richness of perspective is really useful for us as a designer. I mean, if we want to change, to modify, to design the present and the future reality, we have to deal with this richness that is in our everyday context, like the social one, the cultural one, and so on.
Yeah.
So, what about the collab experience? So, I mean,
the company is called Collab, which I understand is a fairly generic name, but what it represents is a collective of people, and we together are working on sort of experimental projects to some extent, trying to push the limits as you do in a laboratory context. We started with the people before the project, which is unusual, I think. Most companies sort of are a company, and then they have a specific project in mind, and then they staff it. So you get hired to work on that project. And coming out of school, I didn't have necessarily the project, but I had the people. And so we just jumped into it. My co-founder in Italy, Giulia Realmonte, she signed up for this without really knowing what we were going to do, but we were really trusted each other, and we were excited about the power of design to, empower people and to, to make the world a better place. So we started the Italian company in the middle of the pandemic, November 2020, like the world shut down a day after we did our founding. Everything shut down again and it was a mess, but that company has now allowed us to make this strong connection between Italy and the US and take on legit projects. So we're working on this new sort of discovery platform called Advent that I've just been posting about online, and got a couple other projects in the pipeline. But the thing that I get excited about is just working with these people. I mean, they're so good. Like Politecnico, I will give you total credit. I mean, every bit as impressive as the top American universities. Like the people that go and study there just are amazing. And I was lucky enough, I think, especially through Alta Scuola, to meet sort of the top of the top, and I've been able to maintain those relationships. I mean, professionally, but also socially, and I just feel very lucky for that.
I can really understand this perspective. Dealing with your previous experiences and project, I was really impressed by one project that is related to both our cultures from different perspectives. I'm referring to the project of the Montessori one.
Yeah.
So you have, I mean, Montessori for us is part of our culture and history in terms of learning and in terms of teaching and so on. But you have interpreted it in a very new and interesting perspective, also because it was during the pandemic.
Yeah. I'm glad you bring it up. Montessori is sort of part and parcel to everything I do. I think it's probably the reason I became an architect and designer in the first place, because I grew up in a Montessori classroom playing with blocks and other materials that just were incredibly tactile and formed the basis for my understanding of so much in the world. So I give a huge amount of credit to the Montessori teaching method, and to Maria Montessori, who is this spectacular woman. She was born over, I guess, 150 years ago, and was the first medical doctor in Italy, as you probably know. Sorry, the first female medical doctor, but then moved into teaching, and ultimately I would call it design, what she did, because she designed this whole method and the materials to teach ideas. So I was really sort of taken by this, and when I finally mastered Italian, I was able to read her original writing in Italian, which is really good stuff. I mean, she had a lot to say. So I had some time in the pandemic. I just dove into a couple of her books, and then we looked at what we could do in this moment, in this moment of pandemic. So the specific project is to actually digitize her work and prepare files so that they can be 3D printed, anywhere in the world. So we set up the website openmontessori.org, and we're sort of slowly creating this library of her original materials. I think there's a design project there also in the future for anyone interested. I mean, to think about new learning areas, new research fields, and basically do what she did, and give shape to them. So, the topic of education is vast, but one of the things that I think we struggle with, from middle school onward, is that things are so abstract that kids get lost. I mean, they're just sitting reading, these textbooks and doing worksheets, and the world is out there and it's way more interesting. So how do you make education tactile again, and interactive? And the answer is there. I think the method is there, and it just is a design task to start to give material and give form to these ideas. So.
I strongly agree with you when you deal with tangible and physical object to start learning and to be involved in the learning process. But to me, this project is a sort of way of changing the perspective. I mean, taking a learning method like the Montessori one and trying to updating it to the digital fabrication techniques and so on to make it suitable for the new generation. So it's a way of okay, we are dealing with something that is really important for the learning process of the future generation, and to make it more suitable, more interesting for them. So to give an opportunity to them for knowing this.
I should be careful how we phrase that, because it's not that Montessori needs to be revised. I think there are a lot of passionate Montessori teachers out there who see the value in it, but it's really about adding to it. Learning from what was done and trying to extend the vision of Maria Montessori into the future by tackling new fields like coding, logic, or maybe statistics, or digital fabrication and design thinking. All these things are sort of new, certainly, with respect to the 1900s. So that's largely what we're doing, and then making it more accessible. I mean, it's pretty pricey stuff when you get like a fancy box imported from Germany, right to the specs of the Montessori Society. So it would be nice to start to put this out in the world in a more accessible way. So that's the other part of it. And 3D printing really has a lot of potential there, because the input material is not so expensive. The machines keep coming down in price, and it's the kind of thing a little school could buy in Africa, sign on to our website, download all these files, and suddenly they have a Montessori school where there wasn't one before, and that could be that could have a big ripple effect. So
completely agree. Tim, I think that we are running out with time. I mean, we are 3 minutes to complete our 13 hour of live streaming. So I think
it's almost your bedtime, right?
Almost, but we will continue it until tomorrow morning.
I'll follow along. I'm very excited.
So there is just one question, the last one that we have asked to all our guests. So I would like to ask you for a message to leave for the upcoming young designer and researchers, a sort of wish, sort of encouragement for them, for their future and for their activities. So would you like to say something to them?
Oh, you should have given me this question before so I could have prepared something. I mean, I'm not any wiser than they are, so I don't have much advice. I mean, for me personally, I think design is a way of life. So, I mean, maybe one piece of advice is, if you're a good designer, you're a good problem solver. And, I think in all of life, in your professional work, in your personal life, in the communities where you live, you will see over and over again problems that need to be, addressed. And I think as a designer and as a citizen and as a human being, it's your job to keep doing better and keep finding solutions and sharing them. And I think there's a lot of potential. I mean, I think design is a really powerful tool. So it's a great field, and I'm glad a lot of young people are still attracted to this. So.
I think we all agree on this wish for the young designers. So, I mean, thank you very much, Tim. It was a really good, interesting, and inspiring session and conversation. I mean, every conversation we have had during the previous classes in our
well,
school.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been great.
So take care, and hope to see you soon, maybe here in Milan.
Okay. Yes. Alla prossima. Ciao, Carlo.
Ciao, grazie.